everybody. Craig from URComped here with another very exciting, very special guest for our Comp Travel interview series. We have Nick Ippolito. If you are in the casino industry, especially in casino marketing, I'm sure you've heard of Nick Ippolito. He is all over the place on LinkedIn, all over the place physically, giving his trainings to some of the top host teams in the world. So it's really a pleasure to get to have Nick on. Nick, thanks so much for being here.
No, not a problem, Craig. It's a pleasure to be here with you. And, I've known you quite some years. We talked earlier just about how long, about 3 years now, 4 years. And I cleaned up for you. I shaved the quarantine facial hair. And, of course, I put on a tie. I haven't worn a tie in a while, so it was good to put a tie back on. And I've turned down a couple of these. So I was happy to do it for you. I've been watching you on LinkedIn, and your videos are going great. Your information's fantastic. The content's wonderful. And you brag about me, so that's what the others don't do. So they don't get me on their show. You know what I mean? So, and it's great to see you. After 3-4 years, your product has come a long way, and you're helping out casinos. Your CRM, your software's on fire, and helping casinos get new players is what I'm all about. New and inactive, and that incremental revenue is what it's all about. So it's a pleasure to be talking to you during the.
Well, I like the way this interview's starting out. Why don't we keep going? Say
about
more
you.
Good things about. No.
That's impossible for me not to talk about myself. That's about all you get, and no, it's wonderful.
No, but it is. I did open up by saying if anybody is in casino marketing on LinkedIn or just been around, they know who you are. But for anybody that's watching that doesn't know who you are, maybe talk about what you do and maybe a little bit about your background.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that, because I am everywhere. I'm not only digitally, and social media, but I am all over the world. I've been to so many casinos, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of casinos over the last 8 years. It's been absolutely incredible. And I'm glad you said that, because I am, and I posted it just the other day on LinkedIn, I am very proud of my resume. I'm very, there's a ton of great people out there that are training and teaching and consulting and doing their thing and writing articles. And the first thing I do is I go to their resumes, I go to their experience, And so I'm very proud of my resume. I'm very proud of my experience. I'm doing this for 30-something years. And, it's funny you say casino marketing, and I don't ever consider myself casino marketing, because when I think of casino marketing, Craig, I think of direct mail and events and promotions and, things of that nature. And although I've done it, there's been moments where I've been a casino marketing manager, casino marketing director. It wasn't very long, and it wasn't very long-lived. It was usually I was very successful player development, and the property was lost their marketing guy and asked me to step in for a little while, right? And but me, and I think you coined the phrase 4 years ago, the host whisperer.
Yes.
I have to be with the host. I have to be on the phones. I have to be talking to players. I have to be getting that incremental revenue. That's just what I'm all about. That's part of my DNA. So in my educational seminar, when I teach casino hosts, I tell them the whole story that I started out. Well, I was a bartender, when I was a baby on the beach. It was the best time of my life. But I moved into Atlantic City, to a role in Atlantic City, and I was a beverage supervisor, and they recognized me, and they asked me to be a casino host. And it was the first time that they hired hosts. John Groom and Richard Slack had the foresight back then to see that the casino hosts were all taking care of the high rollers and the $1 million players and the $100,000 players and the $50,000 players. So 20, 30 years later, I still say this, a monkey can take care of that player. A player loses $100,000. It's a no-brainer, Craig. I mean, come on. Anybody comes to any business and spends $100,000, everybody knows to kiss their butt and take care of them, right? So then when they asked me to be a casino host, I said, I don't have a book. I don't have a following. And I still do the book thing because we didn't have computers, right? So the host had a leather-bound book in their jacket with rubber bands, right? and they would open it up and pages would fall out and receipts would fall out, right? But that was the book. And I don't even know if Host stayed book anymore. I'm not sure, but that's where it comes from. If you ever hear, an old school boss say to you, what about your book? That's where it comes from. It was an actual book, in our jacket pockets or their jacket pockets. So my first taste of casino hosting was to take care of the grind, was to take care of the low end player, was to talk to the people that weren't being touched. Guess what that's called? That's player development. That's developing this low end player, right? So I didn't have the 100,000, the $1 million players, and these two guys, John Groom and Richard Slack, who are icons in the industry, icons. They taught me, don't worry about that stuff. Those people take care of themselves. They come to the events anyway. They come right. So that was my first experience. So that stayed with me. It's absolutely part of my DNA now, my blood, my blueprint. And I've passed that on as I went along. And that's always been my go-to. When a host would show me their top player, I scoff. I go, who cares? You're not going to impress me. The guy comes anyway. You know what I mean? So that was my first. So I worked Atlantic City. I worked Caesar's Palace. I worked the casino floor. I think there was other casinos at the time, but all we knew was Vegas and Atlantic City, right? Those were the two big houses. Those were the two big markets, And I did that for about a year, and John Groom and Richard Slack transferred to Caesars Las Vegas. So I'm 20-something years old, living in polluted, stinky, humid, cold Atlantic City, crap Atlantic City, right? Sorry, everybody. And they call me up and they go, do you want to do what you're doing in Caesars Las Vegas? And I'm like, are you there? Are you guys there right now? And they go, yeah. I go, we'll go out to valet. And they go, what? I go, I'll be there. I'll beat you to valet. That's how quickly I will be in Las Vegas, right? And listen, I grew up with the Rat Pack and Dean Martin and, Frank Sinatra was in my neighborhood, Hoboken and Jersey City. So I've always wanted to be a part of the Vegas scene, So I packed my car and literally drove across country and became a slot host. I was a table host in Atlantic City. I became a slot host in Caesars Las Vegas, which was, again, at first I was bummed. I was like, oh, man, I'm a table guy, But now, right before I started in slots, was when they just started to get the reader machines and the card system, and the reader boxes were about this big, on the side of the slot machine. But it was the first time that they brought in the $500 slot machines, $1,000 slot machines. Pat Hurd used to play the $1,000 slot machines. That's $2,000 a pull. $500 slot machine. That's $1,000 a pull. Mike Matook, Ron Brown. These players were just phenomenal in Caesar's Palace. And of course, Caesars, it was before Schmarr's. And, it was such an intimidating, such a beautiful property. If I had one wish, I wish you all could see, Caesar's Palace back in that was the 80s. I could imagine it in the 70s, you know what I mean? Like, with some of the greats. So anyway, I'm walking around. I'm a slot host at Caesars Atlantic City, Las Vegas. And now I'm learning how to sign people up. I'm learning the introduction to the card system. I'm learning all that. And then I went to the Hilton, and the Las Vegas Hilton at the time, Brian Parrish and Pete Castiglia, great man. I think I just saw Brian doing an interview the other day. I think he's a CEO or something. He's a smart kid, very smart kid. He was a baby then, but he was a very, very smart kid. They brought me over to the Hilton to bring my Caesars people to the Hilton. So now I had a book, right? So I was like, oh, I get it. I see how this works, So then I went on to the Tropicana, and the Tropicana was another pinnacle spot for me because Mike Musicara and Doug Ferrari had hired hosts from every casino only to make calls. We were not allowed to work the floor. We were not gifted like they are these days. These kids, they show up at the casino, never had any experience, and they're given a list of players who already come to the casino. I mean, so we were tasked with only bringing new players. It's Harry Mustafa, Debbie Regal, Risa Powell. We had to bring only new players. Did we sneak and work the floor? Of course we did. We're a host, right? We beat every system out there, right? It takes a crook to catch a crook, right? So I was at the Trop for a good 6 years. It was a great run. I had some great players. But listen to what I just said. Now I'm on the phone all the time, right? So I went from learning the take care of the low end, the grind, the people that are missing, the people that no one's reaching out to. Now I learned you got to get on the phone in order to get business, right? So that launched it. That was it. When I got to the Hilton for the second or third time, I was on the phones a lot. And then when Paris opened, Tom Benani hired me to run the PD, so to speak, at Paris and Bally's. It was connected, and we were all wondering how we're going to do the opening of the Paris. And Tony Santo, my mentor, great man. He's out in Great Canadian right now. There was a lot of hustle and bustle going on in the meeting, I remember, and host that had been at Bally's for 30 years, booking the same 15 people over and over and over and over again, right? I raised my hand and I said, what if I hire telemarketers? And you would thought I don't know what I said, because the host got pitchforks and torches, and they were like, you're not bringing those people into our industry. I had no idea what they were talking about. But Tony Santo, God bless him, he said, what do you got, Nick? And I winged it, Craig. I had no idea. I said, I don't know. Let me hire 10 telemarketers. And he goes, what are you going to pay them? I don't know, $10 an hour and 2% Theo. I don't know. I made it up, right? And God bless Tony. He said, do it. Gave me a big room, and I hired about, I don't remember at first, 10 of these telemarketers. And it was right at the time when telemarketers were going to jail, right? So we get scammed. You know how we get scammed every day on our phones from Iraq and who knows where,
Oh, yeah.
Right? Well,
there's a Nigerian prince I thought for sure was legit.
Okay, but that originated in America, right? We used to scam ourselves. Telemarketers used to call American telemarketers would call American old ladies and steal their welfare check, right? Those are the guys I hired, Craig. Yeah, but guess what? It took telemarketing for me to another level. Could you imagine what they taught me? I didn't teach them. Yeah, I taught them the casino industry, which can be taught in an hour, right, to anybody, okay? I taught them the casino, but they taught me telemarketing to the 10th degree, right? And they said to me, this is the easiest sale on the planet. And I'm like, what do you mean? They go, your clientele already want what you're selling. And my head exploded. They're like, do you understand that most sales, you're trying to get people's money. You're trying to sell them on what they don't want. You're trying to sell them when they're trying to budget. Not a gambler, right? These cats didn't even turn the computer on after about a week. They were just making calls, booking people, right? So we, of course, I hate to say outbooked the host, but we did a phenomenal job. So much so that it put me on the map. Presidents from other properties. I remember Joe Jimenez was the president at Caesar's Palace at the time. Came across the street to Paris, Bally's, actually, I was in Bally's, and he wanted to see the operation. I believe Kevin Kelly came down. He was the CEO at Stations at the time. They were like, you have $10 an hour telemarketers booking $100,000 players? I'm like, absolutely. You have $10 an hour telemarketers booking 8-year inactive players? Absolutely, right? So that put me on the map. So then I did Stations Casinos. I did the thing at Stations, right? The same dog, the same animal, right? Where I hired telemarketers and we called for the Stations properties. And we booked so much at Red Rock. We booked out of state at Red Rock, right? Because I thought, what are the hosts patting themselves on the back for when people live 20 minutes away and they want to play video poker? You're not doing anything. You're not driving that revenue, right? So little did I know, that whole thing I just told you built my training program. And, I haven't worked in the Strip in 8 years. You know what I mean? I've done all Indian and private owned and casinos, and I've been overseas, Morocco and London and everywhere. So now it's dealing with those locals and teaching these local hosts, right, that you're not driving that 10, 20-minute revenue. You know what I mean? You're taking care of them, but you're not driving it, right? So that all encompassed my training over the last 8 years. And now don't get me wrong, my first gig in Oklahoma, was I the redneck? Of course I was. I'm like, first of all, I was like, when I got the call, I'm like, there's casinos in Oklahoma? And she laughed. Deborah Prince, she laughed. She's like, yeah, there's about 500 of them. I'm like, I was such a Vegas, Atlantic City guy, right? And also, and we'll talk about that later. Maybe I field some of your questions, so I know where I can fit some of that in. Anyway, you were asking me about my history. So that's my history. I've worked at a lot of casinos in Vegas. I've opened quite a few of them. The last one I opened was the Downtown Grand with the great Seth Shore. That was a great project. I helped the Plaza out a little bit, and opened the Paris, and then just been all around the country, just educating casino hosts and meeting casino hosts and whispering to casino hosts, and the results have been amazing. Just to get the testimonials I get, if you get a host to compliment you or smile, you've done, and they just are free with their compliments, and I see them quoting me on LinkedIn and re-quoting me and referring me, and it's just been those are the. I mean, listen, I love a CEO and I love all the top guns, and I love all them, but you won't catch me hanging out with them. I'll be with the host.
Man, I love hearing your story. That is so entertaining. Just walking down, I don't know, just hearing about the innovation, because a lot of us that a lot of people just kind of look back and they'll see the old pictures of Vegas with Dean Martin on the or Elvis, or you're obviously a lot younger than that, but
thank you. Not a lot, but thank
you. Yeah. But anyway, I really enjoyed that. And what struck me is you have a very pragmatic outlook on what a host like, because it's easy to say, oh yeah, I did $1 million in Theo last year, but really, like I heard you say, it's if there are people that live 5 minutes from the casino and they like to gamble, they're coming anyway. And it sounds like you're very practical with your approach about like, all right, we're looking for incremental revenue.
Yeah.
And
listen, I don't want to lose that business.
Of
course not. If they call in the middle of my training, I tell the host, go ahead, go run to the cage, take care of them. You know what I mean? And all I'm trying to do is help the host survive. Because if I think like that, a dummy who never went to college, a CFO is going, they're not driving that, you know what I mean? And I want the host to live forever. I want it to last forever. So the way you move the needle is incremental revenue.
So it sounds like baseline, they got to be good people. They got to treat their players well. They can't repel business that would already be coming in. But the next level is actually being able to drive business that wouldn't be coming in otherwise. So what do you think are some qualities that make a great casino host? Some of it obviously is inherent, it's natural, but some of it can come from training. So what?
And let me just go back real quick, and then we'll go to that. And my training is not cookie cutter, okay? So I always make hosts ask themselves, what business am I driving? And I'll tell you, I've been to the smallest little casino in the middle of a cornfield, in the middle of a duck pond, and I pull up thinking, oh my God, I gotta, I've overdressed, right? And I walk in, and there's maybe 2-3 hosts. They don't have a steakhouse. They don't have a concert hall. They don't have a spa. But guess what they say to me? We have to make our numbers. How about that? Right? I go to a little casino, in the middle of nowhere, and the hosts have to drive business. So I'm just echoing what you said about driving business. What was the next question? Oh,
yeah, no, thank you for that.
And the qualities of a host. It's funny. I've been in interviews. Dominic Ortiz, another great kid, I love him to death. He's my fishing partner too. So I'm actually his fishing lackey. He's not my fishing partner. He's an expert fisherman, and I kind of just bait the hook for him and tie knots. And if I'm not getting snagged in the weeds, he brought me out to Kickapoo out in Texas. Yes, there's gambling in Texas. People always correct me, but there is gambling in Texas. And we developed the host program. And I sat in interviews, and I've done this for Q Myung, and I've done this for Richard St. Jean. Sat in interviews, and it strikes me hysterical that the first thing the host candidate says is, I'm really good people. People love me. I have really good people skills. People love me. I love people. That is not the prerequisite to being a casino host, okay? It is the prerequisite to getting a job, to getting past HR. Absolutely. And my feeling is, that's the umbrella of the job. That's everybody's job. That's not everybody's skill, but that is everybody's job. And when I teach customer service, as I've done to a lot of these big properties, the whole property, customer service, I kind of define that. I go, you have a job and you have a skill. And on too often we mix those two, or we meld those two, right? Your job, of course, is to have good people skills. I hope the security guard has good people skills. I hope the housekeeping, they probably don't say that in an interview, but damn, they should, Craig, right? If I'm interviewing a security guard, man, I hope he says I'm really good people. People love me. I have great people skill. So I don't know why I want hosts to have that, but that is not a prerequisite to being a host. Prerequisite to being a host, obviously, is sales. It's all about sales. It's all about, have you been in the trenches? Have you had to make your number? They hire these hosts who interview. It's not the host's fault. They hire hosts that think it's kissing babies and patting people on the back, right? And it's not the host's fault. And they go, oh, yeah, she's got great personality. He's got a great personality. He's got a great look. She's got a great look. And then 3 months in, they go, hey, you're not making your numbers. And the host goes, what? Right? And then they hire me, and I do my aggressive sales, and they go, what the hell? I thought I was going to be writing comps and kissing babies, right? So management, leadership needs to look for that, asking those questions. And if they've had no sales experience, you could still ask them, hey, so if your numbers were down, how would you make up that quarter? And when you start hearing, I have to make numbers each quarter, and how do I make up for numbers in the quarter? And if I lose, now in the interview, they start going, what kind of job is this, right? And all you got to do is mention telemarketing and look at somebody's face, right? And they'll go, give them a piece of paper and go, if I gave you these 30 people who haven't been here in a year, how would you get them back? That's an interview, So I have a whole host interviewing process, because you got to think out of the box. You can't interview a host like you interview anybody else. Also, I look for, I'm not going to lie, brother. It's class, it's swagger. You got to have that. You're around $1 million players. You're around people who own businesses. You're around, you got to have that swag. You got to have that. And I think it's street, I think it's embedded in you, you got to know what to say. I've seen so many hosts, hey, I did it when I was a kid. Insult the player. They think they're being so, polite and charming and respectful. And I've seen players turn around and go, why are you talking to me like that? Or why are you talking to me like I'm a kid? Or why are you talking, so there is a real swag about it. There's a definitely, and I think we confuse that with people skills. That's not people skills, There's a real swag to being a casino host, and definitely the sales part of it as well.
So thank you.
And work ethic. Work
okay.
ethic. Because, they're like, they're not under surveillance, 24/7 a host, right? So it's easy for a host to lose that accountability. So they have to be, if you find somebody who will, let's say I'm a host and I'm only making hourly and I'm not salary. Well, if I'm on my way out the door and a player calls me, if the host says, nope, sorry, I'm not helping them, I'm hourly, you got to look for that work ethic. It's very, very important. How to get the job done. Maybe give them examples. I like to do this in a host interview. Give them the problem solving. It's not always go to the boss, and it's not always tell the player, I asked and they won't give you 15 tickets to the fight. I asked, my boss won't do it. Where's the problem solving? You're an entrepreneur. You're a manager level. Whether you're hourly or salary, it doesn't matter. You solve the problem. You know what I mean? Always be selling and win the sale, and there's always negotiating. It should never be, no, I asked. I tell hosts all the time, don't do this. Hosts don't do this. Think of a solution. Figure out the problem. So problem solving is very important.
Because the player's just going to think, why am I dealing with you? If you're so useless, all you're doing is asking your boss and saying, oh,
Craig,
no.
So many directors. I can show you my inbox. I'll screenshot it. That's the number one thing they say to me. Why do all the players contact me and not the host? And I go, I know already. Never been to your property, and I already know. Because the hosts are going, I asked. It's marketing. It's computer generated. They do it with the computer. Marketing does it with the computer. All you're saying, a person is not, just like when you go to a restaurant and you're hungry, right? You're starving. And you walk in the restaurant, and the first thing they tell you is, 2 of the cooks called out sick. They only have 1 waitress, and 1 of the stoves burnt. Do you hear any of that? All you hear is, well, are you going to feed me, or am I going to go next door? Right? So consumers don't listen to all. I don't know what people think, that the player goes home and goes, oh, that poor host, he tried for me. It's not what a consumer does, right? they go to the boss. So many directors, I'm glad you said that. So many directors do say to me, why do the players come to me? Well, that's why.
Yep.
Problem solving. Solve the problem.
And, and you know, probably some of the directors are, and I'm sure you've seen this. They're probably guilty too because they feed the player. You know, and consumers are like, well, last time I went to the director,
Oh,
it
it's so
worked.
easy for the director. Here's some free play.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So they're like,
I
all right,
get
I'm
it.
going to keep going
I
to the
get it.
director.
Well, he's
They're both
cornered.
at fault.
He's
Yeah,
cornered, isn't he? I mean, he's
yeah,
cornered. He's the director. He's cornered. The players in front of him. It's a survival thing.
yeah.
And then he goes to the host and he probably yells, "Why is your player?" You know what I mean? So it's a vicious cycle. But I think it comes down to the host have to be a little bit more. And I teach them this, and I see the light bulb goes on, and I see it, and I get the text messages, and I get I teach them that trick of negotiating with a player, and it makes their life so much better. I'm on the host side, trust me. I am completely on the host side.
Well, and I think probably a lot of that, because I know we deal with it. We are number one booking for Royal Caribbean, Celebrity MSC.
Yes,
We
you are.
do a lot of comps on that front. And something that's difficult for our staff is sometimes breaking the news to a player that they don't qualify for what they think they qualify for. And I think a lot of what you're talking about is that where the host just doesn't have the confidence to tell a player
Yeah,
like, hey, sorry, bro, you're not getting
yeah.
the 15 tickets. So in a situation like that, what do you tell a host? Like, how do you give them that courage to tell the player, like, look, sorry, you just don't qualify. It's not, hey, my boss
Yeah,
said no. It's like,
yeah. I'd
host,
love to tell you, but that's what they pay me for. So
all right.
right now.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, I do have some gems, and it's all about negotiating and not giving up. And I never stop negotiating, and I never give up. The answer your question without giving away everything is, it's not this. That's not the answer. That's
Yep.
not the answer. It's computer generated. You said the magic word, qualify. It's all about qualifying. So you can't. I teach hosts. You never say no. Hosts never say no. I have GMs call me and go, "Can you come out and train my host?" And I go, "Yeah. What's the matter?" And they go, "They just need to know how to say no." And I go, "Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am or sir. I'm the wrong guy. I don't teach hosts. No host says no.
Yeah.
You don't say no.
You spin it. So
I'll
it
give you
sounds
the
like,
path to get there. You want
yeah,
15 tickets? I'll get you 15.
it's smart. I mean, yeah, no, it makes sense. So you're spinning it in a way that the consumer knows the path to get what he wants. They may never be able
Absolutely.
to afford to gamble as much as it takes to get to that path, but at least it's not, oh, sorry, the computer.
Well, if that's the case, then guess what? Who won the negotiation? If they don't have enough money to get to that path, who won the negotiation?
The casino? Or
Yeah, the host.
yeah, all right, good.
Right?
Yeah, okay. I passed the first question. Uh, I don't think I'm not sure I have what it takes to be a host, but maybe with your training, I could. Because I
With my
have seen,
training, anybody could be a host. Trust me.
yep,
The problem with hosting is, do you want to do it? Listen, I've done my seminar, and there's been brand new hosts in the seminar, and oh man, let's see, I'm doing this about 8 years. I would say 3 or 4 casinos. When I went after I do the educational seminar, I do my exclusive, which nobody else does. I sit with you and I make the calls and I show you that everything I just taught works. Instead of just saying, do it, I'm an expert, bye, give me my money and leave, right? I don't do
yeah,
that. I show you, let's do it. And after the training seminar, about 3 or 4 casinos in 8 years, the host didn't show up to my one-on-one, and the director came to me and said, he or she quit, or we transferred them. They said, after your seminar, that's not the job I signed up for, which is okay, which is good,
sure.
right? Now you know what this job is all about, right? So,
Well, that lends so much credibility to what you're teaching them. Because it's,
yes.
as you said, it's easy to be write the textbook on hosting, but
No, yeah.
but if you sit down and you actually do it and you're like, see, it works. I got this inactive player in. I know that's what you do because I've read the testimonials. That
Yes. And it's
gives the
all
host
about that
more
moment.
confidence.
It's all about that moment when the guy hasn't been in 3 years, or the guy hasn't been in a year and a half, and he's been going to the competitor, and we hang up the phone, and the host spins his chair around and goes, I got him. He's coming in. Like, I get just as excited. I can't wait to make those calls, because I know how it's going to be. And do we lose a few? Of course. There's places that don't have a spa, and that's all the person wants. You know what I
Yep.
mean? cut bait and go. I'm a big fisherman. I'm a huge fisherman. Cut bait and go fish somewhere else. There's
Do the
fish
players
that want to come to your hook.
do the players ever show up a week later and they're like, "What? Where's that smooth talker from New Jersey I was on the phone with? That I'm here to
No,
see."
no, but I tell a story how I booked one lady, big player at L'Auberge many years ago, and the host came to me, and they wanted this player, and they didn't even have her phone number, and she was a huge Schmarris player, and they had lost her for over a year, and so not only did I have to find the phone number on the person, but I did, and she happened to own a restaurant, and the minute she answered the phone, I said to her, yes, it's Nick over at L'Auberge. I'd like to book a 50-seat VIP dinner at your restaurant. And I got her, right? Of course.
Nice.
And then I got right off that subject, and I booked her. We gave her 125 in free play or something. I can't remember. She was a huge, huge player. Hadn't been in a year, right? Now, to answer your question, I'm sure weeks later, months later, she was in the casino going, hey, when's that dinner at my restaurant? And the GM was like, Ippolito!
We're sending you the bill. That's awesome.
Stupid not to, right? You'd be stupid not to do that anyway. Turn that into a VIP party, a player development party, whatever. You know what I mean? So maybe that happens. But yeah, sometimes in the very beginning, I used to call for the host. They were afraid to get on the phones. So I'd say, give me the phone. And I go, hey, Martha, it's Craig over at the, URComped. So I'm sure when they got, if I was in Oklahoma, the guy didn't talk like this. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Do you know that I booked one of the biggest players when I was in Morocco, when I was in Africa, when no one, Craig, no one in the continent talks like this. I got on the phone and I booked an Arabic player to their poker tournament, and he was a huge player. I don't even think the Moroccan host booked that week. And I booked in Africa. So when people come up to me and try to show me their stuff, that's all I ask them. Have you ever booked in London? Have you ever booked in Africa? Have you ever booked in Korea? You know what I mean? Gamblers are gamblers, buddy. That's one thing I've learned in 30 years.
Yep.
Yeah, I booked a player in Morocco, in Africa.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Every now and then he still WhatsApps me. He still thinks I work there.
He's like, what accent is this? You're like, it's South Morocco.
Didn't even ask. He didn't even ask. The way I do it, they don't even ask.
That's amazing. So you talked about gamblers are gamblers. Obviously now there's a lot of gamblers that aren't gambling, or at least not legally. So
exactly. I was going to correct you. They're gambling, buddy. They have to gamble. The same way a drinker has to drink. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A runner has to run. A biker has to bike. It's no different.
So casino hosts are facing a situation, I guess a lot of them are, probably none of them have ever faced before. We're coming off of a closure of a casino, worldwide pandemic. What's some guidance you can give them on, like, hey, this is uncharted territory, like any tips or mindset?
So I got to tell you, brother, I don't like, I wouldn't say I don't like, I am not a fan of these experts, and I'm not a fan of people assuming and thinking they know it all. And I'm not in that boat. So I don't have any, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a mathematician, I'm not a socialist. I'm not a political guy. I'm not an economist. I don't know. And I got news for you. Maybe only Warren Buffett knows. He might be the only one, right? He should be the next president. I don't know. None of us know. This is all, you just said it, virgin territory. We are all guinea pigs. We don't know if it's going to go away. We don't know if people are going to die. More are going to die tomorrow. We just don't know what's out there. The only thing I'm an expert in is that gamblers need to gamble. And I wrote it on LinkedIn a couple weeks ago. I was very quiet during this whole thing because I am I am not a scientist, an economist, a mathematician, right? So I keep my mouth shut when I don't know something. That's one thing I like. People always say, man, Ippolito, he can spit venom. I only spit venom when I know what I'm absolutely talking about, right? And I've talked to players for 30 years. I've done nothing but talk to players for 30 years. So that's the first thing I want to do. I want to get on the phones and I want to ask. You just liked my comment on LinkedIn where I said, quality telemarketing takes away the assuming the guesswork of direct mail. Direct mail does nothing. It's just advertisement. That's all. It just keeps the casino and the promotion in the player's face and in their head and in their ear, right? But it doesn't ask the questions. It doesn't qualify. We could say 62% of the people lost their 401k. Who cares? Gamblers don't gamble off their 401ks, and gambling is recession proof, pal. Okay? I don't gamble, but I know the psychology of a gambler, and I teach that to my hosts. You got to know your market. You got to know if you don't know who you're pitching to, who you're selling to, then you're not going to be able to sell them, right? A gambler during the worst of times sees a nickel on the ground. You and I see a nickel and we save it. During this pandemic, I cut off half of my HBO. I cut off the good dog food. I cut out, right? A gambler doesn't do that. They find a nickel on the ground. They're going to turn that into $50,000. That's going to change their life because they've done it before, right? So I only know gamblers, and I know they're gambling. Trust me. They're gambling right now. I just been texting with my buddy at DraftKings. They have a online casino, not sports, but they also have an online casino. Those companies are doing very well. People have to gamble. Millennials are the new gamblers, right? And they like to sit home and look down on their phone and gamble. So those things are definitely in place. These plastic things that we're putting up, we got to keep them clean. They got to look presentable. I wrote the thing, not to everyone, but to the host, that, players are funny. They'll say, he coughed on me, I want free play. You know what I mean? Yeah. Plastic things, if you think they were bad before, okay, we ain't seen nothing yet, okay? We ain't seen nothing yet. So I wish I knew. I wish I had the answer. My only, of course, my only guidance is get on the phone and listen. Selling is in the listening. Don't assume. I wouldn't be calling people going, oh my God, are you okay? Isn't it terrible? Oh my God. I don't do that. So the only thing my only guidance is, and you've seen it on LinkedIn already, I'm telling people call. And right now, I hope they've been calling for the last 2 months because everybody's home, right? Mm-hmm. When I do my one-on-ones, all we get are voicemails, right? Everybody's home. The calls I've made already with some of the hosts, individual hosts have hired me to help them during this because they're like, we don't know what to do. We don't know what to say, right? Yeah. We've had people wanting to book, right? So I think it's, you go out in the street, in Vegas anyway, you go out in the street and maybe 40% of the people have masks and gloves and 60% of people don't, right? So there's your map, right? And then you throw gambling in the mix and look at these places, and they emailed me I was right. They opened and they were slammed. Of course. You're talking about a gambler who couldn't gamble for 2 months? Of course he's going to come to the casino and gamble, right? So my only guidance is get on the phone. And I also don't like people saying to me, this is not the time to sell, Nick. This is not the time to sell. Stop it. You're selling me right now. I'm selling you right now. There's always a time to sell, okay? Your life is sales and service, right? You just got to know when to sell and who to sell to. And so you don't know that until you call the person and qualify them, right? And that's what I teach. My telemarketing is all about qualifying. So my advice is that. Get on the phones and qualify.
Well, and I would echo that anecdotally because we're fortunate that most of our business is booking comp players on cruises. And so we can book a year out, 18 months out. But even cruises we're booking in August, September. This was our busiest booking month ever. Yeah. Which they think I'm lying, but I'm like, no, this is insane because there's so many people, like to your point, that are just pent up. They're sick of being in the house. They want to gamble. Our customers want to get on cruises, and it's all they can think about. They're looking at four walls, and they're like, I got to get out. So I'm with you. It's not.
And not only that, half the population thinks this whole thing's fake anyway, right? Yeah. I mean, so it's a split down the middle in America. It's 50-50. And I think that increases with gamblers wanting to get out and gamble.
And I'll disagree with you or not disagree. I will agree with you on one more thing. It's that I tell our team, just sell. Let them say no. But it's not our job to assume that they're going to be offended or not going to take an offer. Our job is to present them with an offer and see if they want to take it.
Craig, listening is in the selling. When I'm sitting in one-on-ones with hosts, I see so many opportunities missed because the host isn't listening. They got their script, they have their thing, they're nervous, they don't want to sell, and they don't hear it. And I hear it, and I go, I would have got him. He said that one thing, right? So I'm not saying be as aggressive. Listen, I teach when you're coming in, right? So yeah, hey, when you coming in? Oh, I have Corona. When you coming in, right? It's not going to work. Hey, when you coming in? Well, you're closed. Yeah, when you coming in? I mean, it's not going to work. I understand that, right? But listening, selling is in the listening. There's a moment where you have to be ready. You have to go, oh, there it is, right? And you got to paint, instead of saying, oh, I'm so sorry, you got to go, well, wait a minute, you just said that the four walls are closing in on you. Let's fix that, right? There's always, so I just hope that during this pandemic, and I've worked again with some hosts, and hosts are calling me and texting me, and they're saying, well, we're just making affinity calls. I hope you're okay, blah, blah, blah. I hope that's not all they're doing. Some of them have been really creative. Some have done really creative things with their players, and I'm really proud of them.
Well, Nick, this has been so entertaining and educational.
Did I go too long? Yeah, I have a little passion for this, I guess.
No, I mean, I think we could go for 3 hours, but I'd rather save this because I want to do this again. Maybe after more casinos start opening, we can kind of reflect on what changes we're seeing.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, I mean, what is there anything I forgot to ask you? I should have asked you.
No, I don't. I think we covered it. Again, will the business change? And the business is always changing, and I've seen it change throughout the years. Technology, number one, is the number one game changer in this industry and in our business. There's so much great software out there nowadays. There's a virtual host. So that's the number one thing has changed. And I think the pandemic might have, like I said, with everyone on their phones and turning to other resources of gambling. I don't know if resources was the right word. Other venues of gambling. Will it affect, them getting out again? Yeah, I think it's going to, you get set in your ways, right? You start saying, no, man, I can gamble right on my phone. Why would I, I can watch The Office and eat and gamble on my phone and not beg for a comp and not beg for a, you know what I mean? So there might be a little bit of impact. I think Vegas is going to get hit the hardest. I think the indie casinos and the privateer casinos that are around, I think it's easier for them to just get in their car, check it out, stand behind a plastic thing and go home than get on a plane and go to a transient, city like Vegas. I think Vegas is going to have to work a little harder, to get the. I think the millennials will now really take over Vegas, because it's cheaper. Like you're saying, you're still getting bookings. There's a ton of people coming here, young kids coming here because it's $40 to come here now. You know what I mean? So I think that will continue, to go on like that. The one thing I wanted to say, you mentioned marketing earlier. I'm a little disappointed in the free play. I'm a little disappointed in all the free play articles and the pushing of free play. I was hoping I hate free play. I hate it, and it's the worst thing that happened to our industry, and it doesn't drive a trip, right? Everybody comes in, plays for 1 minute, they play off their free play, they get their pot and pan, they get their fondue pot, and they go home. It doesn't drive revenue. It drives a trip, but it doesn't drive revenue, right? So I was hoping that this would be the time that we all get together and listen. You've been cooped up for 2 months, 3 months. Come gamble. I was kind of hoping that, right?
Yeah.
Before free play and before slot tournaments and before fondue pots and before lawn chairs, we had what they wanted. We had a casino, and they want to gamble. So I was a little disappointed in some of the articles I've been reading about. We're already back to that free play level. That's a little disappointing, but it's what everybody wants. Listen, if he does one good thing, he was a casino guy. I wish he would outlaw, free play for all of us. We would all love it, but we can't. One casino can't stop doing it because the other casinos are overdoing it, right?
Yeah.
So it'd be nice if we all got together. But I was a little disappointed in that. I was thinking, look, they've been cooped up. I would just be on the phone going, come on, yeah. You know what I mean? So.
Well, just to expand on something you talked about, you're right. The technology is becoming, the gamblers are now maybe doing online gambling for the first time because they can't go to a physical casino. So I think a couple of things. It's like, one, hosts are probably going to become even more important because that's the one thing technology doesn't have is like, I want to go see Nick at, I want to go drive out to the pond and
Right.
hang out with Nick, and because he always treats me well, makes me feel good while I'm gambling. So
Right.
convert, it's like it's kind of weird, but I think hosts and that personal touch are going to become even more important. But then the second part is obviously we need players to feel safe when they go back and feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But if they make it too sterile, then it's like, why am I driving here? I'd have a better experience just gambling on my phone. Like, why am I here in like a feels like
not too sterile, but like too many rule, too much stand here, 6 feet, too much of that. And the other thing, you also, I don't know the legalities, and I don't know if anybody's posted yet. And I was going to reach out to a couple of the legal people I have on my LinkedIn, and if anybody's watching, please comment. Legally, you got to be careful. You call a player and you tell them how safe everything is, and they're not going to get sick, and then they get sick. First words out of their mouth is, well, the host called me and sent me free play and said I wouldn't get sick. So it's a real thin line. It's a real thin line not to overdo it, not to be, no, you're going to be great, you're going to be fine, you're going to be fine. It's a fake, it's a hoax by the government, everybody's fine. You got to, it really is a unique, and I reformulated my, my training for it. It's a really unique walk that we have to take. And I'd like to hear from legal and things like that, because you got to be, players, they lose money. They'll say, well, you told me I'd be okay, right? And now I'm sick, right? You got to be, it's a thin line.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's tricky because not saying I know there's arguments and you can get in a Twitter flame war about like, oh, it's just the flu. It's not the flu.
Yeah.
But what I would say is like, I doubt any player ever has thought like, I went to the casino and I got the flu, before coronavirus. I'm going to sue the casino for giving me the flu. But now that we've made this so much bigger, you're right. Some players are going to think, I went to the casino, I got coronavirus.
Or I got the flu. What if they say I got the flu at the casino? What if I got this at the casino? You know what I mean? It's going to be a whole new world. And I just, it's going to take a real, different walk, The other thing I wanted to say to you too, since we're talking about it real quick and then we'll be done, is, this whole texting thing, people say to me all the time, hosts say to me all the time, I text my players. And your software is wonderful that it alerts, it sends a text to that's what texting should be for, not the communication, not the relationship. And with all this technology coming out, I always tell hosts, you're going to text yourself out of a job because there are machines out there that text. Have you ever texted Amazon or anything? That's not a human being texting you back. American Airlines, that is a robot texting you back. And you could curse at it and it'll say, please don't speak to me that way, right? Yeah. So I always try to tell hosts, use the texting, use the WhatsApp, use the email, but use it just to get to talk to the person. If you're not talking to people, you're not qualifying, you're not building that relationship vocally and personally, you're going to text yourself, you're going to tech yourself out of a job, right? With the technology, you're going to text yourself right out of a job. So it's a really good balance between the software that pings me that my players hear and turning to me and one-on-one and saying, I text all my players. And the ones that say that, I take their phone and I go, yeah, but there's no responses. Yeah, you're texting them, but you're not booking them. And they go, oh, yeah, you're right. Well, she said means she won the negotiation. You blew it. You lost the sale. So I'm glad we touched on that real quick. I'm a texter. I'm all for email and texting, but get them to call you. Get them to talk to you. Don't text yourself out of a job.
Yep. No,
you got these great people skills, right? People love me, and people love me, and I have great people skills. And then and John Fernandez will say to one of his hosts, "Did you reach out about the tournament?" And they'll go, "Well, I sent 300 emails. Can I go home now?" You know what I mean? So don't do, get in it, build that relationship, because the technology is around the corner, especially with the pandemic. The technology is going to get even more aggressive.
Yep, absolutely. No, I'm with you. We, as you alluded to, we built our technology where you could text straight from the CRM, but we always tell our team, you can't just do text, can't just do email, because otherwise there's no connection. Because you're right, if you do just text, it's going to feel like any of these bots where I got my American Airlines confirmation via
Yeah.
text message, then yeah, there's no connection there. But if you want to build loyalty, you have to get them on the phone. I mean, for
Right.
us, we rarely see players face to face, so it's even more important to be on the phone so you can
Yeah.
laugh with them and build that
And
more.
you just said confirmation. So many times I sit with hosts that all they do is text, and then we get on the phone and we book a few, and they don't text them the confirmation number. They go, "Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that." Well, that's what texting's for.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's why you do. So there's a whole education on this whole on the texting thing. It's right around the corner. So yeah, it's very important to qualify. Listen, I'm not talking about Marge that lives 10 minutes away that comes every day, and she's adamant. She sends a letter to the GM saying, I don't want phone calls. I only want to, I get it. But we're not talking about Marge who comes every day. We don't even need to be talking to her, right? Because what did I say? She comes every day, right?
Yeah.
So we're done with Marge. Let her, she wants to be text, she's text. But I always I always get people that say, well, I'd love to talk to this guy, but all he wants to do is text. And I do a little thing and he calls. And they go,
Yeah.
oh my God, how'd you do that? And I go, because I'm the host whisperer.
Yeah.
Don't you understand? How you like my mohawk?
I love it.
Yeah,
Looking sharp.
I don't know what happened to my hairdresser. Hopefully she's watching because she's a huge fan of yours. Hopefully she's watching, and I couldn't find her, so I had to get it off of my whisper.
Well, it looks a lot better than my hair. I'll tell you that. Well, Nick, this was an absolute pleasure. I think your enthusiasm and your knowledge of casino hosting, player development shines through. If anybody hasn't gotten a training from Nick, I recommend it. If they want to get a hold of you, Nick, what's the best way to do so?
Oh, call me. Just my website, nickippolito.com. That's the best way. There's an email. My email is nick@nickippolito.com and 702-573-0028. And you can even text me. I might text you back. I'll probably call you, but nickippolito.com or linked right here on LinkedIn. I get a lot of business right here on LinkedIn.
Yep. You are a great person to connect with on LinkedIn. You post a lot of interesting articles and have a lot of great thoughts. So
only if I know. If I don't know, I shut up.
Well, Nick, thank you so much. This was an absolute pleasure, and we'll do it again soon, I hope.
Thanks, Greg. I hope so. Yeah, please. Let's do it.